We continue our look back at some of the top moments from last season as NFL Game Pass free through the end of May. And Eric, we go back to a Week 14 matchup on the road against the Houston Texans.
Yeah, big one here, Phil, for Drew Lock, his first road start of his career. And the Texans are a good team, Phil. They leading the AFC South in this point in the year. We know what they did in the postseason, jump into that big lead against the Chiefs, in Arrowhead. And so this is a good test for Drew. And you're thinking at this point, they're going to have to put up a lot of points to be able to win.
Yeah, and the week before this, the Texans had a big victory against the New England Patriots. And you mentioned the Texans went on to win the South, but at this point, things were still pretty tight with the Tennessee Titans. So the Texans still had a lot to play for in this game. And, it was Kareem Jackson's homecoming, Drew Lock's first road test, and you knew that this was going to be a big game.
Yeah, and we're taking a look at the first half here, Phil, which, probably the Broncos' best first half of the entire season. The Texans moved the ball a lot, but really weren't able to score really anything. And Drew Lock just showed his potential, why the Broncos moved up to draft him in the second round and why they think he could be the quarterback of the future.
Yeah, and at this point, going into this game, we were like, okay, he had a nice game against the Chargers. Let's see what he can do on the road because that's a totally different environment. It's going to be loud. Can you get the play calling? Can you, deliver it in the huddle? And we had all these question marks, and he really put those all to bed right away. I mean, that first drive, the Broncos got the ball. We knew it was on.
Yeah, and we'll see that here in just a second. A big part of this game, Phil, from the defensive side is you get Von Miller back. He missed the first game in several years the previous week against the Chargers. But as you see there, forces Deshaun Watson out of bounds. Big stop for the Broncos. And Drew Lock gets to experience a new situation here, which is starting a drive really backed up. They're going to get the ball here at their own 7-yard line about.
Yeah, and this play right off the bat really set the tone because, okay, you're backed up. Are you just going to run the ball? Are you going to just try and get out of this situation? Instead, they go play action and Lock a gutsy throw, but that's what guys with arm talent like he has. You're able to get away with some of these things.
Yeah, puts it on the inside shoulder. If it's on the outside, it's probably a pick, maybe a pick six. I think later we heard that he told Noah he was going to put it there. So if that's true, it's all good. But in either case, Phil, that's a big play to start the game and gives you confidence as a young quarterback.
One thing that I've learned over the years is that if it works out, it was always meant to work out, and that was the plan all along.
Yeah, another big play there from Drew Lock, Andrew Beck, kind of the tight end fullback combination guy. And it looks like here, Phillip Lindsay's in the end zone. Drew Lock has a touchdown pass, but it comes back, blocking the back on Garrett Bowles, which I know Broncos fans are not happy to see.
Yeah, the fans getting on Garrett Bowles a lot. We'll see what he's able to do next season. John Elway and company said that they thought he improved throughout the course of the year, so definitely a player to watch. But, the Broncos didn't let a penalty like that really get in their minds at all. They were still determined to try and find the end zone.
Yeah, and here on this third down, instead of being conservative and kick a field goal, that's kind of what I thought up in the press box. But here you see Drew Lock make an incredible throw, puts it right on the money to Noah Fant for a touchdown. Nothing the defensive back can do. And that's what Lock does to your offense. He gives you an element of being able to make plays even when you're behind the chains. And they haven't had that in a while.
Drew Lock with a third down and 12. And throws it in, caught for the touchdown. Grab by Fant. Heavily covered inside by Adai. 14-yard strike.
And hopefully this is something we see in the coming years is Lock looking for Noah Fant in the red zone and Fant's able to use his combination of speed and size and get, in front of a defender like that where, hey, the defender's back is to the quarterback. He has no idea where the ball is going to be, and Lock delivers a laser.
And what a gutsy drive from Drew to go down on his first drive, his first road game. Things were a little tough the week before against the Chargers, and he just makes throw after throw, and they take a 7-0 lead, and you kind of think, oh, they could compete in this game. I'm not thinking at this point, Phil, that the Broncos are going to win necessarily, but you're thinking this is going to be a competitive game, and things just get better from there.
Yeah, and you're excited. You're like, okay, they got this thing rolling a little bit. The moment was definitely not too big for any of the players, and Locke seemed comfortable, and Kareem Jackson was really fired up. So you thought, okay, let's see what happens here. Because earlier in the year the Broncos had that great start against the Minnesota Vikings, and you thought, okay, we don't want to see that kind of a game unfold again. So you were always wary about if they could finish the deal. But it was really a combination of the defense and the offense in this game.
Yeah, Phil, and I think you're going to see here probably the play that changes everything. Not quite yet, I guess. Coming up here. But, yeah, exactly. There we go. Alexander Johnson knocks the ball out. Jeremiah Tachu picks it up, and then instead of going down, he hands it off to Kareem Jackson, who's shouting, "Give me the ball."
That may be live, and it's picked up by Tachu. QT dropped the ball. He's still alive, breaking tackles with an entourage, going the other way. Simmons with the block, and there he goes with the ball loose and picked up by Jackson on his homecoming.
What a feeling, what a day that must have been like for Kareem, because those Texans fans, they're still pissed off about this game.
Right, and in terms of Drew, this kind of changes everything for him because all of a sudden, the Texans have been moving the ball, but instead of tying the game up or keeping it a one-score game, you're now getting the ball back as the Texans down 2 scores, and you can't do the same things that you would normally do. And so I think that kind of takes some of the pressure off Locke.
Yeah, and a heads-up play by the Broncos to just keep playing. It looked like maybe the Texans, they thought, okay, maybe the ball was dead, or they just sort of quit on the play. The Broncos kept playing, and they got to enjoy the reward of their hard effort.
Yeah, and if you're the Broncos, I'm sure you're saying, hey, we got to score without Locke ever having to go on the field. Keep them on the sidelines and don't worry about making mistakes. And we'll see here if they're going to throw up some numbers, Phil. The Texans move the ball at will at times between kind of the 20s, maybe the Broncos or their own 20 and the Broncos 40, but they couldn't do much after that, and so it was kind of a weird game from that perspective.
Yeah, and you knew the Texans were a great football team. I mean, they went on to beat the Bills in the wild card round of the playoffs in this stadium, and so you knew they were going to be a good team, but it seemed like something was just a little bit off with them in this game, and the Broncos certainly came to play, but it was sort of a dominating effort from start to finish by the Broncos.
Yeah, exactly. And I do think it kind of shows you what this team can be as Tachu there gets, I think, 1 of 2 sacks that he has in this game. He re-signed with the Broncos this week. But, if the defense can – they're going to give up yards to certain quarterbacks because players are good in this league. But if you can hold them and not give up these touchdowns, I think Drew Lock's going to be able to do enough.
Oh, my goodness, that hit. I still remember that hit. I was on the field for it, and it was like, whoa.
Steve Atwater up in the press box. He stood up out of his chair and almost started clapping. We had to remind him that it was a working press box.
Definitely, you could tell that Kareem, he came into this game with a chip on his shoulder. He had something to prove, and maybe the game of his career there. I mean, I don't know how it's supposed to get much better than that.
Yeah, and he's rewarded that week with AFC Defensive Player of the Week honors. But I like here, Phil, the Broncos are still, they're still going for it. And obviously it's early, but 3rd and 9, this is my favorite throw that Drew Lock makes of the day, maybe all season. Off his back foot, he puts it in a perfect place for Tim Patrick. And Patrick's a guy that he might need to step up in 2020.
Yeah, a lot of talk about what the Broncos might do in the draft if they need to get a wide receiver. Tim Patrick proved that when he's healthy and he's out there on the field, he's certainly capable of making some of those plays. And, Eric, I agree with you. That might have been Locke's best throw in this game because you got to dissect what's happening with the defense, and you're just throwing it to an area, and you're almost throwing Patrick open. So he dropped it right in the bucket, and Patrick was able to make a huge play.
That just shows you the arm talent that Drew Lock has. and what he can bring to this offense from that perspective. But here you are in the red zone again, and this is where, I just kind of want to see good decisions from Drew. Don't throw an interception, put your team in position to score points, and he ends up doing one better than that.
Yeah, exactly. Locke still has a long way to go. He knows that he's got to work on some things this offseason, but one of those things is just understanding the game flow and knowing, hey, if I can get a touchdown here, that's going to really put us in a better spot. Maybe, kill any hopes that the Texans have. And he's able to find Hireman there who is able to get into the end zone.
Yeah, exactly. I do think that what Drew showed as we kind of see the beginning stage of the second quarter here, he showed better accuracy than I expected maybe. He showed that he's mobile, can do things on the run. I'd still like to see, like you said, maybe some awareness of, hey, we've got to be able to string first downs together, or, take what you can get at times. Don't make that mistake that's going to cripple the team. But I will say, and I think we'll see a good example of it here soon, he always seems confident in the pocket. Nothing seems too big for him. And Vic Fangio talked about that a lot toward the end of the year, that they're not worried about him in terms of being mentally overwhelmed.
And that's one of the things about having a quarterback and knowing you got a guy back there, is that when you go on the road, you got the confidence to say, okay, it doesn't matter if the crowd is really into it. It doesn't matter if we fall behind a little bit early. We've got our quarterback who's capable of creating things and making plays on his own. And when you have that, it makes all, the rising tide raises all boats. That's one of the things with did I get that right, Eric?
You nailed it.
I nailed that one. I think I got that one. But that's what it's like when you have a quarterback, is that not only are you able to make some throws and you're able to score some points, but the entire team has that confidence to say, we're going to go on the road and get the job done.
Absolutely. And one thing that'll be interesting to me is, as we see Deshaun Watson throw incomplete on third down, is what Drew's able to do under Pat Shurmur in year one. Because it doesn't look like at this point we're going to be getting to the offseason program anytime soon. It's possible all of OTAs could be canceled. So, maybe Drew Lock's not on the field with his teammates until training camp. What does that mean for his year two progression? We'll have to see. It does sound like they're going to, do some virtual meetings. And so that should help. But I just hope that doesn't hinder his development too much.
Yeah, and Drew Lock spending time in Kansas City right now, hanging out with his parents as everybody's in this sort of quarantine, shelter in place right now. But you thought that Drew was going to be able to spend the off season in Denver. He was going to be able to hang out with Peyton Manning. We know that they've talked a little bit, but you just hope that what's going on doesn't really hinder his growth from year one to year two.
Yeah. And you can see already he's getting respect from the Texans. They can't load the box against Phillip Lindsay, and so the running game is benefiting, and I think should continue to with the addition of Melvin Gordon. But here is just a great play where he kind of looks off to the running back, and then Noah Fant runs an angle route on a little bit of a delay, and he's wide open. Yeah,
I love being able to use these guys in different ways, and I assume that's one of the things that Pat Shurmur is going to really focus on is, what can I do to get even more out of these guys? Fant's speed is really such a mismatch. So if you're able to get him in open space a little more often, we saw that against the Browns earlier in the season. He was able to just take one and go all the way. If they can get him the ball in space, he's going to become really a lethal weapon.
Yeah, I agree. And maybe not, on these down the field contested catches, but certainly where there's crossing routes and maybe it's an easy pitch and catch, and then you let him do the rest of the work. I think that's where he can thrive. Broncos bogged down a little bit there on third down and have to take the field goal. But I think you're obviously feeling pretty good up 24-3, and you're probably thinking, let's get one more stop and head to the locker room.
Yeah, exactly. And this is one of the areas where elite teams take advantage of situations where right before halftime, things sort of open up a little bit. And if you can get some more points right before heading into a locker room, that's where elite teams really can make you pay. And that's like what the Chiefs do all the time. That's what the Patriots do all the time, is that they get a quick score, and then all of a sudden what was just a little leak balloons up a little bit, and you're able to see the Broncos defense get a stop here and then create these situations. And that's one area where I look for the Broncos to make some strides next season.
Yeah, the game, to me, ended here. You know, you have Kareem Jackson making the big stop on 3rd and 1, then Shelby Harris, who's reportedly coming back to the team. He knocks down that 4th down pass, and all of a sudden you have the chance, if you score here, you're also getting the ball back after halftime. And, you know, the Broncos are able to score touchdowns on both those drives, and it's 38-3 before you can even blink.
And going for 4th down on your own end, that sort of reeked of a little bit of desperation. And, you know, when you're down 24-3, you understand, okay, that is a desperate move there. And when it didn't pay off, you knew that the Broncos were going to be in good shape. And you sort of felt like maybe the Texans' will to keep fighting in this one. Certainly, if it wasn't after the 4th down, it was after the Broncos eventually scored here.
Absolutely. And, you know, I think Drew Lock's stat line in this half just shows how good he was. 16 of 19 for 235 yards, 3 touchdowns, a 157.8 quarterback rating. That's about as good as it gets, Bill.
Yeah, and one thing to note here was that it didn't really involve too much with Cortland Sutton either. It was a bunch of other guys who were able to get the job done. And maybe Sutton is a little bit of a decoy, but nonetheless, the Broncos proved that they still have some playmakers outside of Sutton.
Yeah, exactly. And here, another 3rd down play. You know, Drew's kind of scrambling around, and Cortland and Tim Patrick, I thought, took advantage in this game by drawing penalties. And we saw Cortland do that at times, you know, against the Colts back in Week 8. So you can impact the game even when you're not making catches. But Phil, something special happens here on one of these throws. I had said before this game, I thought Drew was going to throw 3 touchdowns and have a great game, and you kind of thought I was crazy.
Nostradamus, Eric. That's what everybody calls you.
Exactly. So there's an easy one to Royce Freeman. He broke out the Buzz Lightyear celebration. Zing, zing.
That was probably the most excited that I've seen a Broncos quarterback be in a very long time. Just you felt the energy out there on the field, and you can even see some Texans fans are already heading inside for halftime.
Yeah, Vic didn't smile, though, there. That shot of him on the sideline. No smile from Vic Fangio.
He knows there's still a long ways to go, but the Broncos got the job done. They went on to win this one big, and Kareem Jackson, AFC Defensive Player of the Week, had an interception in the second half, and Drew Lock. 3 touchdowns, Eric. It was my favorite game of last season.
Yeah, a lot of fun. Rookie of the Week honors for Drew. And this is where I thought, you know, he proved to everybody that he's still got strides to make. There's going to be bumps this season. It's not going to be perfect, but this is what you hope for when you draft a quarterback high. And I think Drew proved to everybody that he's at least got the potential to be a franchise guy.
Yeah, going on the road, getting the job done. It was a huge win for the Broncos and a huge win for Drew Lock. We'll be back. We still have 2 more games to get to in this Game Pass series. Until then, for Eric Dalala, I'm Phil Moore.